welcome everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Education and Teaching Super Fair. So I'm Grant from Prospal, and we're really excited about hosting this fair and beaming it out to universities all across the country. Before we kick things off, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land of which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So in this first session, we're actually going to be hearing from the Tasmanian Department of Education. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rebecca Green and Casey Howe from Department of Education Tasmania. And I believe that Casey and Rebecca, you've got a bit of a presentation that everyone can see on screen right now that you're going to walk through. And then for all the students who are online and jumping in now, feel free to ask questions. We will dedicate some time at the end of this session to answer any of your questions that you may have. So either hold them for in 15, 20 minutes time, or alternatively, just feel free to start firing them into the chat box and we can answer them when we've got that time freed up. But yeah, without further ado, I'll hand over to Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Grant. Thank you for having us. As Grant mentioned, everyone, I'm Beck Green and I'm part of the HR Recruitment and Employment team here with the Department of Education in Tasmania. And this is my colleague.
Hi, I'm Casey Howe, working with Beck Green with Human Resources in the Department of Education.
Thank you for joining us today. We're here to talk to you about employment pathways, how to obtain employment within the Department of Education. So as Grant mentioned, we'll talk through different avenues and there will be time for questions at the end. We'll also provide some contact details at the end. So if you're making notes or have any questions and you don't feel comfortable chiming in at the end, please feel free to contact us directly at any time over the coming weeks. So I'll firstly kick off, and I'm just going to hide our faces. I'll firstly kick off with I guess, two avenues into employment with the department. So first of all, we have our annual recruitment campaign that we've run over the last 3 years. Generally, we advertised for this campaign in the middle of the year, so around July. And the focus for this campaign has been to fill regional and remote roles or high priority vacancies for the following year, commencement term 1 of the following year. The second avenue into employment is through our fixed term and relief employment register. And this is the mechanism that schools use to source relief and fixed term teachers at any stage throughout the year. But I'll move on to that as we progress throughout our slides. So the annual recruitment campaign, as I mentioned, it's advertised mid-year and our advertisement open for application is through the Jobs TAS website. So that's www.jobs.tas.gov.au. The advertisement is also promoted through other means, so Facebook, LinkedIn, newspapers, so you would most likely see it in other places apart from the Jobs TAS website. And basically this is open for application for a 10-day window, and I'll move on to the application process. So to apply through our regional and remote bulk recruitment process, it's a really simple written application process. So it's completing an application form that requires you to fill in your personal details, your preferences, so your specific skill set, your qualifications and your location preferences, and upload a copy of your CV and provide 2 professional references. So the application form, I guess there are staffing conversations happening at the moment, which are related to our teacher transfer process, which is for existing teachers that we have within the department. Those conversations are happening now between our staffing teams and schools. And what happens is from those conversations, there will be specific vacancies identified, and And those vacancies or particular municipalities that have vacancies available will be listed on that application form and within the advertisement as well. So you will be able to, if it's something that you're interested in applying for, you will be able to select your preferences on that form. So that's the first stage of the process. What then happens is we shortlist from written application, and the next, if you are successful to the next stage of the process, we then move on to a video interview assessment. I should make mention that if you're not successful in moving on to the next stage of the process, that does not inhibit you in applying for other vacancies that are advertised, specific vacancies on the Jobs TAS website. And we'll get to that further along in our slides. And it also doesn't prevent you from registering your interest on the employment register, which, as I mentioned, schools use to source relief and fixed term teachers as well. So step 2 is as part of the bulk recruitment process is a video interview, and in previous years that's been coordinated by HR. It's an interview undertaken where we record the video interview. We are an individual panel member, a HR representative, and you're provided with 3 or 4 questions prior to the video interview. It's a really simple 10-minute process. In previous years, this hasn't been used as a shortlisting stage. It forms part of the overall assessment centre process. So I'll move on to that in our next slide. So Casey might take it over from here.
So the assessment centre process is a half-day assessment consisting of 3 assessments, being the interview, group activity and a presentation. It's facilitated by HR. We'll be the first point of contact for you on the day, so we can help you get to the room that you need to go to for the varying activities throughout the morning. The assessment centre process, it's a warm and friendly environment, so don't let a half-day assessment centre deter you. It is HR reps, you're in a room with up to 11 other people, and you get to chat with other people over the course of that morning or afternoon who are on the same journey as you. So it's a very positive experience. In previous years, the interview is held with cold questions, so you haven't got any time to prepare for the interview. It's face-to-face, and all assessments are with a panel of principals or senior educators and a member of HR. So it could be 2 or potentially a 3rd person in that assessment activity as well. There is a group activity where, as it says, you'll be working together with other applicants to solve a real-world school problem, and you're given time to deliberate and then present your outcome to the panel. The presentation is something that is provided, or a request that's provided to you prior to the assessment centre, where you present a lesson that you have prepared and you show your panel the skills and knowledge and your thought process and through that lesson preparation. It may not be, if you haven't graduated yet, it could be something that you prepared as part of your uni as such, so it doesn't need to be one that you have run yourself.
So I guess I should have made mention earlier also is that the bulk recruitment process is a direct pathway to permanency. So that's, I guess, something to consider with this process, is that the intent for the process is to offer permanent roles within, like I mentioned, regional and remote areas or really high priority schools for the following year. So it's a direct pathway to permanency in a lot of instances. So I guess there are some incentives to teach in a regional school, which are also listed in a little bit more in depth when we advertise. And some of those incentives are that there is residential accommodation potentially available for any employees working in a regional and remote location. So accommodation is located within proximity to the schools and can potentially be rented from the department between $10 to $50 per week. So I guess that's not a guarantee, but if you were interested in applying and working in a really regional remote area, it's something that if you were to be successful in attaining a role with a school, that you would need to discuss further with the principal or school business manager at that particular school. There's also a district allowance, and district allowance is paid each year to cover the costs that are incurred by living in a regional area. So the allowance changes depending on the location and of the school. So our schools are, and Casey may elaborate on this a little bit more, but they're categorised as levels, so A, B, C or D, and this can be accessed by you at any time in the teacher transfer agreement, Tasmania teacher transfer agreement. And generally these district allowances apply for level D schools, which may potentially be Mountain Heights, Rosebery, Flinders Island, say. We also, where we can, try and support relocation expenses. So we may be able to cover relocation costs to regional remote locations and also to high priority, hard to fill roles. So they're considered on a case by case basis, and we're able to provide a lot more detail around that if it's something that you were considering in terms of moving to a regional or remote area. There's also the BETTER program, so the Beginning Teacher Time Release program, and this program is designed for teachers who are in their first and second year of employment since graduation. So I should make note that it's not just for teachers who may be successful through the bulk teacher recruitment process. This is accessible to anyone employed off the register who have applied for a specific vacancy on the Jobs TAS website, which we will get to, or if you are successful through our bulk teacher recruitment process. So as I mentioned, we also, another pathway to employment with the department is through our fixed term and relief in employment register, and Casey might talk through this one with you.
So the employment register, as Beck advised earlier, is the mechanism that's used by schools or colleges to engage people for employment. So they can do this at any time, look through the register, search on who's available and their preferences to return some results. The purpose of the register is to hold the data for job-ready employees or prospective employees. There are two essential requirements required to be job-ready as such for teaching in Tasmania. You must hold a current teacher's registration issued by the Teachers Registration Board in Tasmania. Their website is www.trb.tas.gov.au. It's a very informative website. I encourage you to have a look on that website if you haven't already, because there are different registration pathways, and there is the ability to gain mutual recognition as well as early teacher registration if you have not yet graduated. So yeah, please hop on there. The second requirement there is a current registration to work with vulnerable people. So this registration is at a cost to you. It does need to be at the registration category of an employee so that you're ready to take up work. The cost at the moment is around $110, $120 for the employee registration. And I should note that it can take up to 6 weeks for one of these to come through. So it's administered by the Department of Justice here in Tasmania. So you apply online and you've got to provide supporting documents and things. They outsource the national police checks and criminal checks. Once all that's returned to them, then they would approve a registration to work with vulnerable people if that's the case, or if they are not able to, they'll ask for more information. And yeah, so 6 weeks is the time frame for that. It's not necessary to have these two when you apply for, say, the bulk teacher recruitment, but you need to have them upon an appointment, so upon the commencement date. Please keep in mind those timeframes if you are applying. You're not required to have these again for the register. I mean, you are required, sorry, to have these for the register, I should say.
Yeah. So to be active on the employment register, you need to have a cleared RWBP, working with vulnerable people clearance, and a teacher's registration for schools to be able to view you as an employment register applicant. So I guess it's worthwhile noting here that I'll move on to the next slide. So this is how you access the employment register. The jobs.tas.gov.au site, you'll see on the left-hand side across the top taskbar, you can search for specific jobs, and that's where any of our bulk teacher recruitment drives will be advertised. It's where any specific vacancies will be advertised under that search jobs function. And you can also set up an alert. So I really encourage you to do that. You can sign in and nominate your interest in teaching roles, and you are then sent an email notification if any roles with that title are advertised, and it just ensures that you don't miss any opportunities in applying for a role with the department. But the employment registers, they're also listed on this site. It's worth noting that we have a non-teaching employment register, and we also have a teaching employment register. So you can see, as we've highlighted here, you select employment registers, and just be sure that you select Department of Education Teacher, Fixed Term and Relief Employment Register. It's a really simple process whereby you're required to upload a copy of your CV, select your preferences, note your skills and knowledge, and respond how you wish to criteria. Once you've completed your register application and you're active in the system, this doesn't mean that a school receives a notification as such to say that you're a new register applicant. If a school completes a search looking for a relief or fixed term teacher, 5 teachers may show as available within that particular municipality that are looking for part-time or full-time or with that particular skill set, or 55 teachers may show as available. And how a school then sorts through that can vary. They may look through all of the applications and undertake a mini recruitment process, or they may contact the first person on that list and ask them if they're available for relief employment the following day. So it's really important too that if you register your interest, that you're also making contact with schools within your area of interest directly and letting them know that you're available for relief and fixed term employment, and just to try and, I guess, establish a bit of a relationship with the schools. As I mentioned, we also, in the previous slide under search jobs, other specific vacancies, not just the bulk teacher recruitment drive, are advertised under this tab. So while we try and use our bulk teacher recruitment process to fill as many vacancies as we can for the following year, there may be some really specific skill sets or a really hard to fill location that are advertised individually. So it is, like I said, really worth your while ensuring that you've set up job alerts through the Job TAS site so that you don't miss any avenues into employment with us. Each advertised vacancy outlines the specifics regarding that vacancy available. So it will note teacher, Strawn Primary School, or in the bulk teacher recruitment sense, it will note teacher multiple, and like I said, it will be advertised through a lot of different means. I guess on that, if you have a Facebook or Instagram account, we suggest that you follow us under Department of Education Tasmania, and also our Teach Tasmania page. So these pages include posts that include articles and videos that also may be of great interest to you on Tasmanian education. Our department site also has a tab about us, about employment, that has links to things that we've talked through with you today, and also links to things like the TRB and working with vulnerable people clearance and how you access those things as well. So please visit our Department of Education site online as well if you get a chance. That basically sums up everything we have to share with you today, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As I said, we've noted here our best contact email. Casey and I are obviously also available individually if you would like to contact us. And And yeah, I guess if there's time for questions, if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them now.
Thanks, Casey and Rebecca.
Thanks, Grant.
Great presentation, super insightful as well in terms of the process and that. For students who are online, if you have any questions, feel free to punch them into the chat box now, and Rebecca and Casey can answer them as we go.
Yeah, look, like I said, if there's no questions, that's totally fine, but really happy for you to email us with anything that you can think of, or it may be worthwhile having a bit of a look on our website as well, and if you have any questions following that.
Yeah.
Rachel Knott says, thank you all, it was very informative.
Great, thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel. Any other tips or tricks for students on how to get hired, or any other insights you've left off, Rebecca or Casey?
Is this a question or just from you, Grant?
Yeah, question for myself.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Look, I think our Department of Education Tasmania sites, our employment tab's really quite informative, and I think, as I mentioned, if you set up alerts on the Jobs Tas website, you will be alerted if there is anything advertised in that, I guess, your role of interest. So that applies for non-teaching as well, but most definitely, if you set up those alerts, you're not going to miss anything that's advertised. And like I said, the employment register, it's generally, I guess, the best way to get your foot in the door as well outside of our advertised process. So just having a look at the register, even if you're not completing your register application, you can go on and commence your application now. And Casey mentioned the timeframes for TRB and RWVP. You can still go on and be having a look at that and how it all works now before actually completing your application. And like I said, that may then generate some questions from people as well.
And I guess if just add a bit more context there, Grant, to the employment register, as Beck outlined, within the steps of registering, you answer some information there on your skills and knowledge relating to the selection criteria or the duties of a teacher. So the more information and the more specifics that you can put in there would sort of make your application, I guess, stand out from others when the schools or colleges are doing those searches, whether or not it's 5 people or 55. So the more information in there, the better.
Amazing, thanks. We've actually got a question from Leonard. Thanks, Leonard, for popping this through. So he's got a question around how about a limited authority to teach? How does one go about that? And for context, this is for pre-service teachers.
Yep. So, Leonard, if you go on to the Teachers Registration Board of Tasmania website, there's some good guides in there on applying for a limited authority to teach. Obviously, we do employ people here in the Department of Education who are on a limited authority to teach. So please get on there and check out that information. And you can have that LAT to be job ready on the employment register.
Yeah.
Mary has a question for myself, actually. I noticed that the meeting's been recorded. I wanted to ask when you can access the recording. Mary, wherever you've accessed this recording from, so whether it's from Grad Australia or one of the gradaustralia.com.au or one of the career directories that we power, we'll upload the recording. Give us a few days. It'll probably be midway through next week. Once the team's been able to upload that, so you'll be able to watch recording on the focus session. And I believe that we also send an email out as well, notifying all the attendees, any students who have registered prior to the event as well, with a recording attached. So hopefully that answers your question. Lennon says, thanks. No worries, Mary. Any other questions before we tie things up? Nicholas, so I'll read this one out to you both. As a student, we're able to apply on the fixed term contract or fixed term and employment register in term 3 and 4, so we can be employed for term 1, 2022. This is despite not holding a teacher registration yet.
You'll be able to, you'll be able to apply to the register and be job ready if you hold a limited authority to teach in term 3 or term 4.
And you will also require, obviously, a working with vulnerable people clearance. Yep. So you need current teacher registration, whether it's via LAT or provisional or full registration to be job ready on the employment register.
Awesome. Have we got any more last questions? I think that might be it, but for anyone who's watching the recording afterwards as well, you can see on the screen that Rebecca and Casey have been good enough to share the email address, so feel free to get in contact. And as I mentioned, there's a few other social avenues as well that you can get in touch and keep up to date with job alerts, etc. So I think let's tie things up there. Rebecca and Casey, thank you so much for jumping on and sharing some fantastic insights. Hopefully, and thank you to all the students who joined and all your questions as well. So yeah, let's wrap things up there on behalf of Prospel. Thanks for all attending. Hopefully you found this session super useful in your search for employment. So all the best, everyone. Happy job hunting and applying.
Thanks so much, Grant. Thanks, everyone.